There are prayers that never die. They travel across centuries like whispers of light, carried on the breath of those who still believe. They were spoken in the deserts of Sinai, beneath olive trees that no longer stand, in tents made of wool and faith, by men and women who understood that a word, when spoken with the soul, becomes more than sound. It becomes creation itself. This is one of those prayers. Ancient, Hebrew, simple, only 2 words. And yet, it holds a power that defies time itself. Before we begin, I want to invite you to support this channel, a space where we uncover the forgotten wisdom of the Jewish tradition, the divine codes that bridge heaven and earth, and the mysteries that once shaped the prophets and the healers of Israel. If you feel this message touches something in you, subscribe now. Your presence here allows this light to continue spreading. And now, take a moment. Breathe slowly. Whisper in the comments this simple intention. Healing flows through me. Because healing is not something you chase. It's something you allow. And every word of light that you affirm opens a door that had been waiting, quietly, for you to remember. The sages of Israel taught that there are 2 kinds of language, the language of the lips and the language of the soul. The first is spoken by habit. The second is born of awareness. When the soul speaks, it does not beg. It aligns. It remembers its origin, a spark of the divine, still connected to the source of all healing. Every Hebrew word is more than a meaning. It is energy, geometry, vibration. It carries within it the memory of creation itself. The mystics said that when God spoke the world into existence, he didn't use commands, he used frequencies. Each word, each sound, shaped the invisible matter of the universe. And within those same frequencies, the human soul can find the resonance of wholeness, the state before fragmentation, before pain, before fear. Healing, in the ancient understanding, was never just about the body. The body was a mirror, a reflection of something happening within the spiritual architecture of the person. If your words, thoughts, and emotions were out of harmony with the divine design, illness appeared as a messenger, not as a punishment. And the cure was not found in herbs or hands alone, but in speech, in returning to the right word, the right vibration, the right alignment. Among the wise men of the desert, it was said that there is a sacred sound, a short prayer, capable of awakening that inner order once again. A prayer so brief that even a child could learn it, but so deep that angels themselves paused when it was uttered with faith. They called it a key prayer, one that opens the gates of mercy not by length, but by purity. Imagine the ancient nights of Israel, the sky heavy with stars, silence resting over the tents. In those hours when someone fell ill, the elders did not cry in despair. They gathered around, lit a small oil lamp, and whispered words that carried the weight of generations. Their voices trembled not with fear, but with reverence, because they knew, when one speaks from the soul, heaven listens. That is the lineage of this prayer. Not a formula, not a superstition, but a bridge between dimensions. It is said that every time it is spoken, it reactivates the memory of wholeness in the one who listens. Like a spark that leaps from the flame of creation and touches the wound, reminding it that it was never meant to remain open. But there is something deeper still. This prayer, these 2 Hebrew words, were not meant to be shouted. They were meant to be whispered, from within the stillness of the heart, where sound becomes light. The ancients believed that the power of a prayer does not depend on its volume, but on its alignment. A single breath of truth carries more force than 1,000 words said without presence. The prophets often spoke of a time when the world would forget the sacred language, when people would trade depth for speed, faith for noise, mystery for control. And yet they also foresaw that in the last generations, the ancient words would rise again, not as rituals, but as remembrance. People would begin to seek the roots once more, drawn by a hunger that modernity could not satisfy, the hunger to feel the divine. to touch the same presence that once walked with Abraham, that whispered to Moses from within the fire, that breathed into Adam the spirit of life. That time is now. You are not hearing this by accident. Something in you, an ancient part, older than memory, has recognized the vibration of this truth. You have come because your soul remembers what your mind has forgotten. And before we unveil the prayer itself, you must understand this. Every act of healing begins with permission. Not permission from the world or from others, but from yourself. Permission to be whole again. Permission to release the identity of the wounded, the broken, the unworthy. When you say yes to life, the divine rushes to fill that yes with its power. The Hebrew masters said, "As the word leaves your mouth, the heavens are shaped to respond." That is why this prayer still heals today, not because of magic, but because it is truth. Truth is eternal. Truth vibrates the same in every century, every language, every heart that dares to open. There are moments when the soul feels distant, when no medicine, no advice, no effort seems enough. It is in those moments that this ancient current becomes most active, a flow of compassion that bypasses reason and touches the hidden structure of your being. This is where you begin to heal, not when the pain disappears, but when you remember that you are more than the pain. Take a breath now. Wherever you are, close your eyes for a moment. Feel the air entering your lungs. That is the same breath that once animated the prophets. It is not ordinary oxygen. It is ruach, the divine breath. When you inhale, you receive from God. When you exhale, you give back. And between those two movements lies the rhythm of the universe. In that rhythm, the two-word prayer was born. It is not a chant of despair, but of sacred authority. The authority that comes when the creation speaks the language of its creator. The ancient rabbis said that the shortest prayers often carry the highest power because they come without distraction, without pride, without excess. They emerge from silence, and silence is the language of heaven. Healing begins long before words reach your lips. It begins in the still decision to believe again, to trust that the source of life has not abandoned you even when the evidence seems absent. The two-word prayer, when finally revealed, is not meant to fix you. It is meant to reconnect you, to remind you that you were never separate from the power that heals. There is an old saying in the Talmud, "The one who prays for another brings healing upon themselves." Why? Because when you speak words of life over another, you are aligning with the same frequency that sustains your own existence. The vibration of blessing returns multiplied. And so, when you begin to speak words of healing, even in secret, the universe begins to respond. Let your heart prepare, because in the next moments, we will open a gate that few still remember exists. A gate built not of stone or ritual, but of remembrance. Remembrance of the sacred sound that moves from your lips to the eternal. A sound that still echoes in the heavens every time it is spoken with sincerity. Before we step into that revelation, write once more in the comments, "Healing flows through me." Say it not as hope, but as truth, because the moment you declare it, you have already begun the healing. And now, let silence do the rest. The ancient Hebrew prayer is waiting to be spoken once again, and when it is, you will understand why it still heals today. The silence of the desert holds more secrets than 1,000 libraries. Those who ever stood under the night sky of Israel knew that heaven was not empty. It listened. Every whisper, every plea, every word shaped the invisible. It was in one of those ancient nights that a voice rose, trembling yet firm, a voice that would cross millennia and still carry the fragrance of divine mercy. It was the voice of Moses. His sister Miriam, the prophetess who had sung by the waters of the Red Sea, lay afflicted with illness. The camp had fallen into a hush of fear, but Moses did not craft a long speech or invoke endless words. He simply closed his eyes and said, "Repha na," 2 words. In Hebrew, Repha means heal, and na means please. Together they form a bridge of humility and divine intimacy. Please heal. The Torah records it in Numbers 12:13. Moses cried to the Lord, saying, "Please God, heal her, I pray." At first glance, it appears as nothing more than a plea of a brother for his sister. But to the ancient mystics, it became the essence of all true prayer. Moses, the man who spoke with the eternal face to face, understood that when words come from a place of total surrender, they no longer need to be many. Two were enough to move heaven. In the Hebrew tongue, every letter vibrates with divine structure. The sages taught that the 22 letters of the alphabet are the instruments through which the Creator shaped reality. To pronounce them with consciousness is to participate in creation itself. Refanah contains the letter Resh, which represents renewal, the letter Pe, which symbolizes the mouth, the power of speech, and the soft Aleph that returns at the end, the silent breath of God. In this prayer, sound and silence meet. It is as if the Creator listens through your own breath. When Moses spoke those words, the tradition says that he invoked not only compassion but alignment. In Kabbalistic understanding, illness is a distortion in the flow of divine energy through the Sephirot, the channels of creation. To heal is to restore harmony between the higher worlds and the human vessel. Refanah activates the sphere of Tifereh, the realm of beauty and balance, where mercy and truth embrace. The plea is simple, but its resonance touches the core of the tree of life. Imagine for a moment the scene. The desert still. The camp watching in silence, Moses standing alone before the tent, his heart stripped of titles and miracles, uttering two trembling words. There were no chants, no rituals, no formalities. Just the raw pulse of compassion. The mystics say that this simplicity was the secret of his power. The more direct the heart, the shorter the path to heaven. But what makes this prayer so timeless is not its brevity. It is its universality. When Moses said, Refanah, he was not only praying for Miriam, he was praying for all who would ever stand at the edge of despair, those who would one day whisper the same words across generations, in hospital rooms, on battlefields, or in silent tears at midnight. He was opening a door through which anyone could walk. In Jewish thought, healing is never merely physical. The word refuah in Hebrew implies restoration of body, mind, and soul. It means returning something to its divine pattern, to the original blueprint set by the Creator. When you say refanah, you are not demanding a cure. You are inviting divine order to re-emerge. The act itself acknowledges that every cell of your being is part of a greater harmony, and that harmony can be restored. The ancient rabbis used to say, "The prayer of Moses was brief because the heart that is pure does not need persuasion." They understood that God is not moved by eloquence, but by truth. A single breath of sincerity carries more power than hours of formal recitation. That is why Refanah has survived where many grand invocations have been forgotten. It is not bound by temple or time. It belongs to anyone who calls with intention. Kabbalah describes that when these two words are spoken with full awareness, the light of the divine name flows through four worlds: Atzilut, emanation; Bariah, creation; Yetzirah, formation; and Asaya, action. In each realm, it restores what was fragmented. The sound of Re-Fa rises upward, drawing compassion from the higher spheres, while Na descends, grounding that mercy into the world of form. The human voice becomes a ladder of Jacob, heaven and earth joined in one vibration. Even the numerical value of this phrase hides mystery. Rapha, RPA, equals 281, a number connected to the angel Raphael, whose name means God heals. Na adds the value of 51, which in Hebrew mysticism is linked to the name of God as manifested through mercy. When added together, they form 332, a number corresponding to the phrase, or chesed, the light of loving kindness. To speak Refanah is therefore to awaken Raphael's healing light and invite divine mercy to flow through you. This understanding reveals why Hebrew prayers cannot be fully translated. They are not only words, but keys. Each letter, each tone, each silence between syllables carries ancient geometry, a code that shapes both soul and substance. When you whisper Refanah, even if you do not grasp Hebrew grammar, your soul remembers. The sound activates ancestral memory. It touches the covenant written not on paper but in spirit. Throughout centuries of exile and suffering, Jewish healers, mystics, and mothers have used these words. In the ghettos of Europe, they whispered them beside the sick. In the synagogues of Yemen, they sang them at dawn. In the hospitals of modern Jerusalem, doctors still murmur them before entering the operating room. It is the prayer that refuses to die, because it was never about religion. It was about life itself. But beyond language, the essence of Refanah invites a transformation of perception. It teaches that healing is not an act of control, but of surrender. When Moses said, "Please," he acknowledged that the divine is not a force to be commanded, but a presence to be invited. The humility in that na is the secret ingredient. It transforms the prayer from request into relationship. God becomes not a distant ruler, but an intimate partner in the process of restoration. The great Hasidic masters expanded this understanding. They taught that every wound is a doorway. Refanah, they said, is the key that opens it from within. When you speak those words, you are not begging heaven to intervene. You are allowing your own soul to remember its original design. You become a co-creator in your healing. The divine response is not a lightning bolt. It is alignment. You begin to act, think, and feel from a place of harmony, and the body follows. There is a story told of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who once said, "There is no heart so broken that it cannot sing." He explained that each person has a nigun, a spiritual melody that resonates uniquely with God. When a person is sick, the melody becomes muted. The prayer, Refanah, he said, reawakens that melody. It tells the heart to remember its song. Healing, then, is not the absence of pain. It is the return of music to silence. The two-word prayer also bridges traditions. In Christian scripture, Jesus of Nazareth, who was born into this same Hebrew world, echoed the same vibration when he healed by word alone. "Be made clean," he said, or "rise and walk." He did not need complexity because he understood the same principle that Moses did. Divine power flows where human will and divine will become one. Refanah is the seed of that same unity. In the mystical schools of Saft, the disciples of Isaac Luria used to meditate on the letters of Refanah while visualizing a light descending through the body. They taught that illness is like dust on a mirror. When the divine breath passes through the words, the mirror clears and the true image of the soul reappears. Every repetition of Refanah becomes a cleansing wind. Even the way it is pronounced carries symbolism. The soft re opens the chest. The fa releases the exhale. The gentle na relaxes the jaw and heart. The entire phrase is a cycle of breath, a microcosm of creation's rhythm. Inhale, exhale, rest. To pray, it is to return to that rhythm, to remember that the same breath that formed the stars moves through you now. So when we say that this is the ancient Hebrew prayer that still heals today, we are not speaking metaphorically. The frequencies embedded in these syllables resonate beyond time. They harmonize with the very structure of existence. When you whisper Refanah, the atoms of your being remember their divine geometry. The cells begin to vibrate in tune with the source again. The mind quiets, and what remains is presence, pure, luminous, complete. The Jewish mystics called this state shlemut, wholeness. It is not perfection, it is integration. The fragments of your being, once scattered by fear, return to their rightful place. Refanah is the summons that calls them home. That is why it does not matter where you are or what you believe. If you speak it with sincerity, it works through you, not because you deserve it, but because you are part of the same breath that first gave it voice. Now, as this revelation unfolds, understand that these two words are not ancient relics. They are living codes. Each time you say them, you step into the same current that Moses entered. You align with the compassion that moves through creation itself. You are no longer asking for healing. You are becoming healing. The prayer was never meant to change God's mind. It was meant to change yours, to awaken you to what already flows. When the Hebrews crossed the wilderness, they carried with them not only manna and law, but memory. Memory of a God who listens, of words that mend, of silence that heals. And though centuries have passed, that current remains. It is as close as your next breath. So tonight, or whenever your heart feels heavy, close your eyes and let these words rise from the depth of your being, softly, slowly, like a flame finding air. Refa na. Do not force them. Let them move through you. Feel how the world around you seems to pause, as if it too remembers. Because in that instant, you are speaking the same language that healed Miriam, the same vibration that shaped the dawn of time. And when you open your eyes again, you will not be the same. Something within you will have shifted, not because you have learned something new, but because you have remembered something eternal. This is the revelation of the prayer that still heals today. It was never lost. It was waiting for your voice. To understand an ancient mystery is one thing. To live it is another. The words Refa na are not meant to be stored in memory like a relic or repeated mechanically as if they were a formula. They are alive, and what is alive must breathe through you. The Hebrew masters used to say, words without heart are like bodies without souls. The prayer works not because it is said, but because it is felt. Its healing power begins where the lips end and the spirit begins. Take a moment now to feel the sacred rhythm of your breath. Inhale slowly, allowing the air to fill not just your lungs, but your awareness. Exhale gently, letting go of the weight of worry, fear, and old memories that no longer serve you. In this simple movement lies the entire mystery of divine partnership. When you breathe consciously, you are already praying. And when you whisper Refa na into that breath, you are giving direction to the current of life itself. Do not rush it. This is not a spell to be cast, but a relationship to be awakened. In Jewish thought, the Creator is not distant. He is present in every heartbeat, in every sound that passes your lips. When you say Refa na, you are not summoning something outside of yourself. You are remembering that the breath you take and the divine breath that sustains the universe are one and the same. The words become a bridge, not between earth and heaven, but between your fragmented self and your whole self. Choose a quiet place. It could be a corner of your home, a place in nature, or even your car before work. Close your eyes for a few moments. Breathe, and then say slowly, with reverence, Refa na. Feel how your voice vibrates softly in your chest. Let it linger in the air, like incense rising unseen. Some will feel warmth, others will feel peace. But whether or not you sense something, the prayer is doing its work, reordering the unseen architecture of your being. If you are praying for someone else, hold that person gently in your heart as you speak. Do not imagine their sickness or pain. Imagine light. See them whole, strong, and radiant. Say Refa na as though you are brushing dust from a sacred image, revealing what was already there beneath. In that moment, you are joining the lineage of Moses, of the prophets, of all who ever stood between heaven and earth to remind creation of its wholeness. The ancient rabbis said that the world is sustained by three things: Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim, wisdom, service, and acts of loving kindness. When you pray Refa na, you are practicing all three. You are invoking divine wisdom, offering yourself as a vessel of service, and performing an act of compassion, even if it is only toward yourself. The prayer thus becomes not an escape from reality, but a transformation of it. Every morning, as you awaken, before you reach for your phone or step into the rush of the day, take 1 minute to speak the two words. It does not matter if your voice is strong or tired. What matters is that it is sincere. Whisper Refana and visualize a golden light descending from above your head, flowing down through your heart, your hands, your feet, and then radiating outward to the world. As you exhale, imagine sending healing into the spaces that need it most. Your relationships, your memories, your fears. Each repetition is a seed planted in eternity. Right now in the comments, I receive the healing light of Refana. This is not just participation, it is declaration. When you affirm healing publicly, you create resonance. Thousands of unseen voices may read your words, and together you become a choir of light. Jewish mysticism teaches that collective prayer multiplies power. The same words spoken by many hearts become like waves merging into an ocean. The vibration increases, and healing flows further than any of us can imagine. Some may wonder, what if I say it and nothing happens? The masters would answer, something always happens, but not always where you are looking. Healing does not always mean that pain vanishes. Sometimes it means that the meaning behind pain is revealed. Sometimes the illness of the body opens the doorway to the health of the soul. When you pray Refana, you are not dictating outcomes. You are inviting divine intelligence to express itself perfectly. The prayer aligns you with the process, not the result. The mystic Rabbi Luria once taught that every human being is a microcosm of creation. When we heal, a part of the universe heals with us. Every word of light we speak becomes a repair, what Kabbalah calls tikkun. The world itself is constantly seeking to return to balance. Your prayer is not isolated. It contributes to the great cosmic restoration that began with the first breath of creation. When you say Refana sincerely, you are helping to mend the world, even if only one invisible thread at a time. In our age of noise and speed, the simplicity of this practice can seem almost naive. We are taught to believe that power lies in complexity, that wisdom must be hidden behind intellect. But the Torah reminds us that God's voice was not in the storm or the fire, it was in the still, small voice. That same voice now speaks through you. The quieter you become, the clearer you will hear it. Refana is that still, small voice rising from your own depths. You might choose to integrate this prayer into your day like a heartbeat. Say it when you drink water, as a reminder that healing is flowing through you. Say it when you eat, blessing the nourishment as it enters your body. Say it before sleep, letting the words settle into your dreams. The ancient rabbis believed that sleep is a small taste of death, and awakening is resurrection. Thus, each morning you rise healed in some invisible way. One of the hidden powers of Hebrew prayer lies in its rhythm. When recited in steady cadence, Refana becomes like the beating of a drum, two pulses that echo the rhythm of life itself. Try repeating it softly several times, each time slower than before. Notice how your body begins to relax, how your mind becomes spacious. This is not hypnosis or suggestion. It is resonance. You are aligning with the heartbeat of creation, the same rhythm that pulses through stars and seas. If you have ever felt disconnected from faith, this practice will feel like coming home. Because faith, in the Jewish sense, is not belief in the unseen. It is trust in relationship. When you say Refana, you are speaking to a presence that already lives within you. It does not matter if you picture God, light, or simply peace. What matters is that you mean it. The words are keys, but your sincerity is the hand that turns them. In moments of anxiety or confusion, when your thoughts feel like storms, close your eyes and anchor yourself with the prayer. Imagine each repetition as a wave washing over you, cleansing your mind. Whisper Refana until you feel the noise subside. Even 5 or 10 seconds can shift the atmosphere of your entire being. The prayer is like a candle, small but capable of transforming darkness by simply being itself. And if you are walking through pain right now, if there is a diagnosis, a loss, or an invisible wound that no one else can see, do not fight against it. Instead, place it gently within the space of this prayer. Say Refana, and allow that energy to surround it. Healing is not resistance. It is acceptance infused with divine intention. The moment you surrender, grace begins to flow. In the teachings of the Zohar, it is said that every word of Torah is a garment for light. Refanah is one of those garments. When you speak it, you clothe yourself in light that the world cannot touch. Fear loses its grip because you are no longer a body begging for relief. You are a soul awakening to its own radiance. You realize that wholeness was never something to be achieved. It was your essence all along. With time, this simple prayer can transform the landscape of your life. It reshapes the way you see others, because once you experience healing, you cannot look at another's pain without compassion. You begin to live as a healer, not because you perform miracles, but because your presence becomes restorative. Your words soften, your actions carry gentleness, and your eyes reflect understanding. You embody the Hebrew ideal of shalom, peace that comes from integration. If you wish, you can also write Refanah on a small piece of paper and keep it near your bed, your workspace, or even in your wallet. Let it remind you that divine help is never far, that healing is an ongoing conversation between your breath and the infinite. Every time your eyes fall upon those letters, pause and breathe. In that instant, you are reconnecting to the ancient current that never stopped flowing. So when you say, "I receive the healing light of Refanah," know that you are speaking a truth older than time. You are acknowledging the same power that restored Miriam, that still whispers through the prophets, that vibrates in the heart of every soul that dares to hope. You are not learning something new. You are remembering something eternal. Repeat the words once more, in your own rhythm, in your own way. Let them echo softly inside. Refanah, Refanah, Refanah. The more you repeat, the quieter the world becomes, and the louder peace speaks within you. That is the true miracle, not that the prayer heals, but that it awakens you to the healing that has been waiting for you all along. There was once a woman named Leah who lived near the hills of Jerusalem. For years, she had carried an illness that medicine could not name. Her body grew weak, and so did her hope. One afternoon, she wandered into a small bookshop in the old city, where an elderly rabbi sat behind a wooden desk surrounded by scrolls and candlelight. When she asked him for something to strengthen her faith, he smiled gently and said, "You don't need many words, only the ones that touch heaven." He opened an old Torah commentary and pointed to two small Hebrew words written with trembling ink, Refanah. "This," he said softly, "is the prayer Moses whispered when his sister was dying. Not a speech, just a breath of faith. Say it with your soul, not your lips." That night, Leah returned home and lit a candle. The flame trembled in the darkness as she repeated the words, not sure what they meant, but feeling that they mattered. Refanah. Each time she said them, her voice grew quieter, her breathing deeper. The room felt lighter. She didn't see angels, nor did her pain vanish instantly, but something within her began to awaken. It wasn't her body that changed first, it was her silence. It became peaceful. The days that followed were still marked by struggle, yet every night she returned to that same prayer. With each repetition, the weight she carried seemed to dissolve, and one morning, as the first rays of sun entered her window, Leah smiled for the first time in years. Not because she was healed in body, but because she realized that her soul had already been healed. She had found peace in the middle of imperfection, and that peace began to heal everything else. That is what this ancient prayer truly is. A bridge between the seen and the unseen, between what hurts and what hopes. When you whisper Refanah, you are not only speaking to heaven, you are reminding your soul that it is still whole. You are calling light into the places that have forgotten it exists. Healing begins the moment you stop trying to control and start allowing the divine current to flow. And maybe that is what faith really means. Not expecting the storm to stop, but trusting that the light has not left you within it. Refanah is not just a prayer, it's a returning. It's the moment when you remember that the same breath that gave life to Adam still moves through you. You are not separate from healing. You are the place where it begins. Take a quiet moment now. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and whisper these words, Refa. Say them for yourself, for someone you love, or for the world that aches in silence. Each time you speak them, you participate in an ancient melody that has never stopped playing, the song of restoration, of compassion, of divine presence. If this message has touched you and you wish to go deeper into the mysteries of Hebrew prayers, into the teachings that unite the wisdom of the Torah, the Psalms, and the Kabbalah, then write in the comments, I want the Jewish Wisdom eBook. It is a spiritual companion designed to help you live these truths through meditations, reflections, and practices that align your daily life with divine harmony. Let that simple act, writing your intention, be your offering of faith. Because when you declare light, heaven listens. When you open your heart, healing begins to move. And as you finish this prayer, know that the same presence that once heard Moses in the desert still hears you now. The distance between your pain and your healing is only one breath away. Refa, please heal.